even though we had 1 million users by end of 2015, there was just enough revenue to pay off the rent of the apartment that we were working out of. There were more than one instances where we thought it might shut down. Banks didn't even recognize what is a startup. They were reluctant to give away loans. It was just that we maxed out on credit cards and we took loans against credit cards.
You're in deep debt at this point, and then suddenly you get accepted into this program. How did things change for you guys?
That was an amazing program that Google had started in 2016.
How many people were you competing with?
10,000 applications, so only 6 startups out of 10,000 got selected.
And you were one of the 6. That's incredible.
And we were only bootstrapped out of them. That was the biggest thing. And the first questions that we got is from which IIT you are, right? So they all expected us to be from the top tier colleges. Pretty glad that Google saw potential in the app.
And when you check the map on the Google Analytics, you can see that the entire world map is covered. So even in Greenland, someone is using the app.
You're framing AI in a very positive way, but I'm also kind of thinking are people even going to need to learn how to program? Or is AI going to necessitate learning about programming? Maybe the AI just does it for you.
For this, we had actually had a huge discussion, and what we feel is that the need of programming itself shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Welcome to a special episode of Millionaire Mondays in collaboration with Google Play, where we bring you the untold stories of some of India's most incredible app startups. I'm Caleb Friesen, and on the show today, how Nigel, Crasto, and Tito Idicula built an app to teach people how to code and built it into a global platform with more than 40 million users. Coding has become an incredibly sought-after skill, with software developers commanding extremely high salaries at some of the most valuable companies in the world. But learning to code can be tough. And oftentimes, the reason for this is that conventional education struggles to make programming interesting and easy to follow, which often results in students feeling frustrated and disengaged. And this is the exact problem that Nigel, Crasto, and Tito Idicula have decided to solve with an app called Programming Hub, which later evolved into a much larger business. Programming Hub provides learners with a dynamic, interactive learning experience, and today there are more than 40 million cumulative users across all of the company's coding learning apps, and they've also received accolades like Google's Editor's Choice. All of this has been accomplished thanks to the numerous programming languages that Programming Hub supports, the interactive lessons and quizzes that they offer, and the integrated compiler that they've built, which allows students to practice coding for any device. Essentially, Nigel and Tito have done to conventional programming education what startups usually do to antiquated industries. They've disrupted it by doing away with boring lectures and replacing them with rewarding coding adventures. Nigel and Tito's own journey has been quite an adventure too, and you'll hear more about this journey during my conversation with them, but just as a bit of context here, they've been friends for 13 years, and 8 of those years have been spent building their business together. Before Programming Hub, they were employees at a multinational IT corporation called L&T Infotech. They met there in 2011, and they were both part of the same team that was working on mobile apps, which was quite a new space at the time. And I was curious to know, how soon after joining L&T Infotech did Nigel and Tito realize the potential of doing this solo as entrepreneurs? So I asked them about it.
At what point at L&T did you guys start thinking about getting into business and starting something of your own?
Yeah, actually, we were already a part of the mobile team in L&T, so we were already building apps inside L&T. So I thought why not try it out and build your own apps as well and see what the future holds. So then we started trying out different apps.
This was sort of like moonlighting, like you were kind of building side projects secretly, or were you telling your bosses that this is something you were doing?
No, it was our own project, so we were doing it secretly. Yeah.
Okay.
But then we were still putting 9 hours of work at L&T, and then rest of the time, free time, we were building.
This is around 2012 time period, maybe?
Yeah. Correct.
2012, 2013, between that time.
Okay. I think there's a pretty big gulf though between developing these apps on the side, moonlighting, in your spare time, on the weekends, in the evenings, and actually jumping in, leaving your secure job. That's massive, and deciding to start a company. So walk me through the journey of how did you go from this comfortable job, L&T, and you especially, Nigel, I think you weren't really in a position to take such a big risk at least from what I've understood, but you still decided to do it. So explain to me your thought process as you are making this transition into becoming entrepreneurs for the first time.
So it started like when I built a few apps on the side, and I published them on the Google Play Store, and they started getting traction slowly. So initially it was very slow, 5 months there were very just 1,000 or 2,000 downloads maybe in 5 months. So but there were the reviews started pouring in, the positive reviews of users, and then we thought ki there is something here, there is some scope here. So, and as we were already working in a mobile industry, so we knew that this is the future. Android and iOS are the future. So we thought ki why not try this out as well. And also it was that ki 9 to 5 something was not clicking. We weren't feeling happy with the 9 to 5 thing. It was not fulfilling, and we wanted to do something and be in charge of ourselves.
Yeah, so a couple of things that really we were discussing back then was one was in a huge corporate, you become a small fish in a big pond, and that was one. The second thing was that there used to be politics that comes along, corporate politics as you may call it, and the third was that we felt that our potential was not being utilized to the fullest, right? So if we had our own thing, that would mean that we would be able to exhibit what we can really do. So these thoughts were always there up in our minds, and we thought, why not just invest 2-3 years and see how it goes.
Okay. But to invest 2-3 years, usually you want to have some kind of, first of all, you want to have runs on the board. You said you only had a few thousand downloads, but also you want to have your financials figured out, right? Did you guys have plenty of savings that you could dip into to sustain yourselves for 2-3 years, or was it sort of a financial stretch?
Yeah. So initially, there was revenue, but it was very, very small. The number was very small. So it was only enough for us to maybe pay the rent, apartment rent. So, and it was a decision that we had to make. At that point, I felt we had to decide whether we should go this approach or continue with the job. And one important factor was that the things were moving very slow with the job. As in, we were not able to put much time on our product, and it felt very slow. And again, it was we were not happy in working that way. We thought, why not go fully into this, try it for a few years, and then decide. If it doesn't work out, then we may go back to our jobs. Otherwise, we'll continue with this. And how beautiful that would be. We would be in charge of ourselves, and we would have the freedom to do anything.
Yeah. So in a way, Nigel even convinced me, saying that let's go all in and see what happens. The worst that will happen is for 2 years, 3 years, we'll be struggling. But then eventually we can always go back to our jobs. So both of us then decided, okay, let's try it out.
What did your families think of this decision to jump full time into starting an app development company?
So I had my mom and my family. So my mom was really scared because there wasn't any backup as financial backup at home. So she was scared what will happen and why are you leaving a good job. So, but what I used to do is at home I used to show the app to her in between and tell her what I am doing, and she used to feel happy about it. He's doing this and that, and I used to be excited about it and tell her about the growth of the app slowly. So she was confident he might be able to do something, but she was also scared. But what happened is at one point of time, I was having sleepless nights. And she was observing me. What is happening? And we had a discussion. What is happening with you? I told her, explained her what my situation was. I was not able to decide whether to leave the job or continue along with the job. And along with the job that I was not happy. We were not happy. The progress was really slow. So then she somehow supported me. She was like, okay, you should try this and then we'll see what happens. So that gave me a lot of courage. I said, now mom is on my side, so I don't have to worry that much. Let's start. This is the time and see what happens.
Wow. That's Sounds like your mom is an amazing person. That's not the story that I've heard from a lot of founders. A lot of people just say, yeah, my parents told me not to do it, but I did it anyways, and I didn't tell them about it. And now they're happy because I'm successful. But it's amazing that she supported you, even though it was a big risk. So the first thing that you guys started, the company that you guys started together was Java Programs, right?
Right.
This is in 2013?
So that was not the company, that was the app that we the first app that we released. It was in 2013, late 2013. And that was just an experiment.
Okay.
Sort of. And then it blew up. It grew really well.
What was the concept of the app? What was the idea?
So there were just code snippets. There were just Java code snippets. And basically Nigel was doing his MCA back then, which was a correspondence program. So, even in our jobs, we had to switch project to project and technology to technology really quick. And we had about just 1 week to grasp any concept. So that is when Nigel thought that let's rather put in together all the code snippets. And he saw different apps that were back then in 2013 there on the store, and they were not up to the quality.
You're talking about the Google Play Store?
Google Play Store, yeah, right. So in Google Play Store, when we looked up apps, there were absolutely nothing that were really good, right? And Nigel thought to build a better version of what was already there so that he could learn himself. And plus we could quickly copy the code snippets and use in our work also.
So even the college students, when building this, we thought about the college students as well, because even in college, we had this assignments, practicals on programming. So what we did is we tried to also add all those code snippets there, so that even students could easily access them in the practicals.
So in the labs, in the colleges, schools, we have laboratories wherein you have to go and do that code, put that code out there, show the output to the teacher. So all of these places, our apps actually started getting more traction.
So there was this big wave for India's startup ecosystem around 2015. And you guys were starting even before then in 2013, where I think there would have been probably a lack of access to venture capital. Was that something that you guys looked into in 2013? Was that an option that you considered, like maybe we'll go to a bunch of investors, take some money just to accelerate this? Or was that not even on your radar?
Yeah, so initially, all the discussions that we had, we were pretty clear that we didn't want to go initially the venture capital way. It would rather be bootstrapped as long as we can stretch it. And that is when all of the challenges also started coming in.
Yeah,
right?
bootstrapping is not easy.
Yeah, it is one of the toughest things to do. But then we wanted to go that route because we had spoken to our friends and we had seen startups who were back then struggling also. At the same time, when you talk about VC, 1 in 10 startups do fine with VCs. Rather, it would be 1 in 100, right? So we look at the glorified startups. We don't really look at the ones that failed. So we thought, let us go slow, but at the same time, it'll give us benefits in the long run because we get the freedom that comes without having a VC. So that is what we wanted to first focus on and build a solid foundation and base, and then maybe later on figure out how to go about it. So initially it was very clear that we had to go our own way, going bootstrap.
So you guys decide to go the slow way instead of the blitz scaling, venture-backed way, which I think was the right decision in retrospect. But at the time, that would have made the journey really difficult. What were the next couple of years like for you guys from a financial perspective?
Right. So there were more than one instances where we thought it might shut down. So because even though we had 1 million users by end of 2015, there was just enough revenue to pay off the rent of the apartment that we were working out of.
How are you guys monetizing that massive user base?
Yeah, that's the whole problem, right? So we were not able to monetize the user base. Even though we had the users, we didn't actually know how to provide such value that we could derive subsequent revenue from them. So it was rather a chicken and egg case wherein you now have the users, at least one part of the problem was solved. But then again, the next big problem of generating revenue out of them still existed. And when I say a user base, a lot of the user base were actually coming from Indian audience too. So it is rather more difficult to even convince an Indian audience to actually back then pay in a mobile app. Even now it is difficult, but now it seems that India is a huge economy and we are opening up to paying for mobile apps. But back in 2013, when just mobile apps are coming into the play in India, and Indian audience is not anywhere close to spending on the internet as a whole, and talking about paying for mobile apps is an even bigger challenge.
They expect everything to be free.
Absolutely. Yeah. And back then, especially when you say internet was supposed to be free, right? So that was the whole idea. So that was the part where we were struggling. So we saw that revenue was the biggest problem.
How much money were you making?
So we were making very less, just so as to pay the rent. So that's about it.
What was your rent? 20, 30,000?
Yeah. We were just 20,000 maybe per month.
Okay.
That is all that we could do initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then how did you make it work? I mean, it doesn't sound like that was a recipe for success.
Yeah.
How did you, and you wanted to expand too, right? I'm assuming you were hiring people. You must have had a team, or was it just the two of you?
No, we had a team and most of them were friends, and it was all
You weren't
sweat
paying them
equity.
salaries? Sweat equity, okay.
It was all sweat equity. So to say, everyone was putting in their time, and whatever extra little revenue that came, that got distributed. And again, it is not good enough to be called a salary. So it was just a so kind of sweat equity that was ongoing.
Makes
and
sense.
then we had people to believe in our vision also back then. So that was again difficult to get them aligned to the same, because we were all naive. We were all beginners into this business, right? We didn't understand business ourselves. So, and we were immature, and we were not even mature enough to understand that everyone here is immature. So people problems, financial problems, all of that came in picture, and that is when the real struggle was. And there were more than one occasions where we thought that this would shut down.
Because you had run out of money?
That was reason one. The reason two was again people problem, wherein everybody has their own ambitions, right? And it is not necessary that everyone would align to the same goals, both in terms of their own lives and both in terms of finances also. So those visions to align was a huge hurdle. And again, discussions were not as mature as it eventually became after we understood and gained that level of maturity. Till then, when everybody is naive, the discussions go haywire, right? So it's more of like an ego clash rather than building the solution. So those discussions along with the financial problem was double whammy.
Yeah, it sounds really messy. And money does solve a lot of these problems, because then you just hire people, you give them a good salary, and they're incentivized. What did you guys do? How did you solve the money problem?
Yeah. So back then we didn't really have a solution to the money problem, right? So that was a huge hurdle. But then again, there were people depended on us, right? So we had to go about taking loans. That was the last resort that we could go to. And banks were not even letting us loans, right? Banks were like, you don't have anything to back up against this. Either they needed security. And now banks understand startups. Back in 2014-15, when it was just starting, banks didn't even recognize what is a startup. So they were reluctant to give away loans. So we didn't even really get real loans from the bank. It was just that we maxed out on credit cards and we took loans against credit cards initially, so as to just keep things going.
In your own personal capacity?
Yes, at our own personal capacity. Nigel maxed out on his credit cards. I did on mine. And then
what are we talking about here? How much? Because Indian credit cards, they don't give you a lot of credit from what I've seen.
Yeah, it was I took around 50,000. Tito took around 1 lakh. So it was different. But the range was around 50,000 to 1 lakh.
That's really uncomfortable though. That adds a lot of weight on your shoulders. And with those interest rates, right, every month, you kind of feel like we need to pay this thing off quick.
Yeah.
Did you also borrow money from family and friends?
Yeah, eventually we had to. Once these funds dried out, we saw some potential happening in the app also simultaneously. It wasn't as if the app wasn't growing at all. So app revenue also started scaling slowly, and we could pull ourselves for 3 or 4 months more with the loan that we took. So during that duration, we saw traction happening in the app also. So that gave us more confidence to actually go back to the family, friends, and ask for more capital from them.
And it seems like that was we're here in 2024. Clearly this actually worked out. And it was the right move to take those loans from friends and from the bank. But how did you, I mean, this is now a problem, right? You owe all these people, you owe the bank. Really, there needs to be a miracle here at this point for you guys to kind of survive and pay off all these debts. And you still hadn't cracked the monetization, right? For your user base. So how did you actually go about figuring out how to monetize your all the people that were using your app effectively and in a way that didn't feel, that was like sort of had less friction, right? You were describing how Indian people didn't want to spend money. So how did you solve that problem?
That was very interesting. The initial monetization models.
Initially we were only running ads because we didn't think at that moment that our users would pay us via direct in-app purchase or the subscription. So we're just making money through ads, and that too, like we couldn't put a lot of ads. So if you put a lot of ads, the user uninstalls your app and gives you 1-star rating. So we thought there was maybe no other option. But this, I still remember like the discussions we were having while taking the loans. This might be our last shot. So let's figure out something, or maybe we'll have to shut down. So then there was the light of like Google Launchpad Accelerator. So this in 2016, like when we heard about this program, so we thought, why not let's apply ourselves into the program and see if we get selected. And that like changed our trajectory completely.
I have to imagine that there were a lot of people applying to get into that accelerator though.
Yeah.
How many people were you competing with?
10,000 applications were there is what we were told during our phase wherein we were selected. So only 6 startups out of 10,000 got selected.
Wow. And you were one of the 6. That's incredible.
Yeah. And we were only bootstrapped out of them. That was the biggest thing. We were the only
rest were all venture backed.
The rest were all venture backed. So pretty glad that Google saw potential in the app. Google saw traction in it, and they knew that there is a good viable market fit that could come out of this app. And that is when they decided to give us a go. And we were really happy that it unfolded that way.
So I'm just trying to picture this. You guys are sitting out of Mumbai. You're in deep debt at this point. You're both still in the same houses that you started this company in with your families, right? Your lifestyle hasn't changed. In fact, it's probably gotten worse since you quit your jobs, right? Now you're really scrappy, you're struggling. And then suddenly you get accepted into this program. How did things change for you guys? And you must have gone to the United States for that program too, right?
Right. So that was an amazing program that Google had started in 2016. So the initial classes were taken to Google HQ in California. They had mentors all over the world come there and sit with us and teach us how to rather do business, so to say. And if you compare us to the other startups that were there back then, so others were already VC backed, and all the guys who were the founders of those startups were already having good know-how of how to do business, how to run business. So they
had already been mentored.
They were already being mentored, and they were already in the business for more than a couple of years, and they knew how to run stuff. So for us, it was completely a different, tangent to go into and sit with them and realize how to actually do business, how to pivot the app entirely. So that was a great experience. And that is when we actually learned how to build a product in such a way that people get value out of it and they are ready to pay for it willingly. So that was a completely different experience for us.
So up until this point, you're now in the United States, you're getting all this mentorship and input. And I'm guessing that the people over at the Google Launchpad Accelerator are like, how did you guys get this far doing it this way, right? They must have been surprised to see like how far you had come, given how scrappy you had been and without really any experience or mentorship. It must have been incredible for them to see the progress that you made. Was it within that accelerator program that you changed the name from Java programs to Programming Hub?
So before getting selected for the Launchpad Accelerator, we had actually changed the name to Programming Hub because we had multiple programming languages in our app already. So that is when we decided to already change it. So by the time we applied, the name had changed. But yeah, like you rightly mentioned, for everyone it was a surprise because all of them were VC funded. And the first questions that we got is from which IIT you are. Right. So they all expected us to be from the top tier colleges and maybe top tier MBA colleges. But that wasn't the case. So they were all surprised. I mean, like, what are you guys doing here?
Wow.
But yeah, it was really wow moment for us also to understand that anybody could make it this far if they really pursued to the idea that they were keen on, and they would rather put their time and efforts into it. It eventually unfolds into something bigger.
And what were the biggest upgrades, I would say, to Programming Hub during and directly after the Accelerator? What changes did you guys make? What insights did you acquire during the Accelerator? Tell me about how Programming Hub changed during this experience.
All right. So first and foremost, we didn't have analytics in place in the app. So the first thing we were taught at Launchpad Accelerator was to know your user. So that was a big eye opener for us, because we thought we could cater to everybody across the globe.
You had just been flying blind up until that point?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
We can say that.
You can actually say that. We were just like, we were lucky, so to say, at that point to have such traction. But then the monetization bit that we discussed, that we were not able to monetize the users, it stems out of the fact that we didn't even, first of all, know who the actual users were, right? So regarding the analytics that went into play after the Accelerator program, I think Nigel can shed a lot of light on that. It was amazing.
So yeah, like initially we were like, we wanted to cater everyone, like students, teachers, and everyone. And in Google, it was like, no, it doesn't work this way. You'll have to like focus on one audience. So first crack that audience, then build for other audiences. So like now they wanted us to like understand first what was your current audience, like the majority of your audience, who was it that it was using our app. So we went back, like we for 3 months, like we didn't work on the product at all. We were like focused on the research and analytics. Our goal was to put analytics in the app and understand who is using our app, and to interview users. So we like added analytics. We interviewed 100 to 200 users, and then we understood that our major audience are beginners, like college students, early job goers. All these people are using our app. So that like made us clear what we have to focus on.
And initially, you guys were just offering your app for people learning Java, right? Is it was during the Accelerator that you opened it up to other programming languages as well? Or had you already done that?
We had already done that because Java's code snippets were working. So we just simply blindly added more code snippets of other programming languages and called it Programming Hub. But it was only after the Accelerator that we understood how to go about analytics, understanding who are the actual paying audience, and to be able to cater to them better. So after interviewing, like Nigel mentioned, we interviewed 200 people in person, and roughly 6,000 people we took a survey of through the application, because back then we had good traction, right? We had over 1.2 million users. So and our active user base was also huge. So we conducted surveys and actually got to know who are the kind of people who are using our app and how they are using the app. So both of these were crucial in building the next version of the app, which was pivotal for us, because now we are transitioning from just code snippets to a complete all-in-all learning app. So that transition happened only after we dwelled into analytics. We implemented analytics in the app itself, so to see how the user is interacting with the app, what are the places in the app they are using. And after interviewing, we realized what their actual need was, right? They're coming and downloading what their actual expectation was. So back then we also realized our download rates are good, but at the same time uninstall rates were equally huge. So then the moment for us to realize was that maybe it is just a go-to app for doing a certain thing and leaving out of it. Now, how do we retain these users? What more can we give to them? A lot of these questions were haunting us. And it is just through sheer analytics and talking to them that we understood, okay, we need a complete transformation of the app. So like Nigel mentioned, for 3 months, we did absolutely no work on the product. And we went back to the drawing board and completely did a rewireframe of the entire product. So that was again a big decision, because now we are transitioning from just code snippets to a bite-sized end-to-end learning application catered to beginners. So now it was much more targeted and much more value-based, value-driven for the end user. So that pivotal moment really helped us refine the app to a great extent.
There's another piece of the analytics that I want to look into here, because I think this is super important. As a business, you have to look at where is your money coming from. So once you actually started paying attention, what did you realize? Because I think you guys starting off as Indian people living in India, right? You would have been probably thinking, we're going to make this thing for Indians, right? Did the analytics sort of paint a different picture of where the money was actually coming from?
Right, absolutely. It was a drastic shift because when we looked at analytics, it is then that we realized back in 2015-16, Indian audience is not there yet in the market to actually pay for apps. So, but then US audience had actually matured to a stage wherein they are now readily paying for mobile apps, and they saw value in our apps once we had pivoted, and they were ready to invest in such apps and actually pay for such apps. Given the quality that we were giving back then. So we saw that majority of our actual paying audience is coming from the US, and we knew that we had to now cater to US audience in a much more personalized and better way. So we added a lot of interactions and content in such a way that it is helping to solve their problem. Because in the US, one of the unique things that we noticed was that those who were using our apps were actually coming from different backgrounds into tech. There were people who wanted to start with tech. Maybe they were in sales, or maybe they were in completely different domain, and they wanted to start a career in IT and tech, and they couldn't go back to books because books were difficult. So that is when they actually download our app, and it became the stepping stone for them to actually think that, okay, they have a shot at starting a career in tech. So that was a very unique audience now, which we had to cater to. And a lot of eureka moments happened there. The first one was, for example, that we noticed they didn't want to see a terminal screen. When they saw a black screen, everybody who is a non-programmer gets taken aback. So when we saw analytics, we saw that when you show the actual code snippet to a beginner, that is when they drop off from the app. They no longer want to continue. So we realized, okay, let's not put a terminal. Let's just make it a white screen with just simple line-by-line code written. For example, in Java, stdio.h, or in Java rather it was print
static void main.
So all of these basic syntaxes also were very difficult for somebody who is an absolute beginner. So we had to break it down. Why do you want to write print? Why do you want to use parentheses? So all of those things, one at a time, when we taught them, we realized that, okay, this is the audience that we need to cater to, and this is how we need to teach them. So yeah, analytics brought a lot of that into play.
So every time you would make one of these positive changes based on analytics, you would see that people were spending more time on the app and the drop-off rate was decreasing, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So when we made funnels, we saw that each screen where the drop-off was happening, one by one, we were able to rectify every screen, and we saw that towards the end of the course, we have more number of people coming in now. So drop-offs was almost 90% initially, but now we have completion rates of almost 80%. So if you see the difference, the journey that happened from having 90% drop-offs to now 80% completion, it was drastic.
Wow. So 1.2 million users is how big you guys were when you went into the Google Launchpad Accelerator. Tell me about the next couple of years. How big did your user base grow from 2016, 17, 18 and onwards?
From there on, after we completely changed the offering in the app, we saw tremendous potential, right? And we were confident ourselves that this is the app which we would like to share with our friends also. Anybody who would want to ask that, how do I begin a career in tech? We knew this was the go-to place. And once we were confident, and now that we have data to back up the fact that users are wanting to have an app this way, that is when we realized that this is going to really grow really well. And once we had that change in place, we saw that subsequent years we started adding millions of users, and all of which was organic. We didn't have to invest anything into marketing. A lot of it happened through word of mouth, and a lot of it happened because Google Play Store also helped us make the app more discoverable through App Store optimization and other organic mechanisms which they had built. So that really played a pivotal play for us, because we had been mentored on how to organically grow the app also. So being bootstrapped, that is the way to go, I feel, for any beginner in this space who wants to build a business. Venture capital firms always go behind digital marketing and spending for acquiring users. They always talk about CAG, or what is your cost of acquiring a customer. For us, we wanted to keep it zero. Go the organic way, and maybe later on invest in actually inorganic ways of marketing. So it was until 2018, I think, we had spent absolutely zero on inorganic ways of marketing the app. yet we had close to 4 to 5 million users by end of 2018.
Wow. Okay. So you were in the Google Launchpad Accelerator, and I think one of the amazing things about that accelerator is the fact that you didn't have to dilute your stake in the company, right? It was an equity-free grant that you guys got through that accelerator. And so you're still, up until 2018, and actually till this day, you're bootstrapped. What did that allow you to do? As a bootstrap startup, how were you able to move differently and build differently than a company that might have been venture-backed in the exact same space? Because it was like, it is a crowded space at this point, especially. There's a lot of apps for learning how to program, learning how to code. But I think you guys had that advantage. So tell me about how you were able to utilize and take advantage of this sort of a unique position that you were in as a bootstrap company.
So this advantage made us like completely free. Our minds are not bothered by targets put on by VCs and stuff. So it is like we were open to try out and understand different things. So we thought, why not? Let's even try doing other apps, other kind of products as well. So first of all, we wanted to change the Programming Hub app, the offering in the Programming Hub app. So we wanted to make the course more dense, more in depth, as Programming Hub was catering to only beginners.
Sort of surface level.
Yeah. So the course was very basic and it was not that much in depth. And we were also like not sure whether adding depth to Programming Hub would impact the users. So what we did is we tried a different strategy. Here we created a different app with an in-depth course. And we called this project an X series project.
It was called Project X when we started. So the idea behind Project X was completely different, because we wanted a clean slate. Because now that we had 5 million users on Programming Hub, and that was our major source of revenue, we didn't really want to experiment and put ourselves in trouble again. Being bootstrapped, we want that source of revenue to continue. At the same time, you want to try out experiments. So then we were at a stage wherein we had to decide whether to do it and take the risk then and there, or rather we start with a blank slate and see how it unfolds.
And what exactly does that blank slate look like? How does that actually work? You set up a new developer account in the Google Play Store? Is that kind of what you're talking about here? Or you set up a different company? How did you go about it?
Yeah, basically we started with a different developer account because we didn't feel a different company would be needed. So it was like an experiment. It was like, let's try it out and see what happens. So we tried with a different developer account so that our users are not impacted. So a different account, different app, so completely new and completely free to experiment with.
And what was the response?
So initially, again, this was going slow, as we did not digitally market it in a way. So it was slow, but the way we saw there are different kind of users are using the app who want to go in depth in these courses. And these users who wanted to go into depth, these were like developers or maybe teachers who are trying a different language from what they existing know. So for example, if someone knows Java and they wanted to try out something else, but go in depth into it. So they liked this app much better than Programming Hub.
Because they already understood the prerequisites. They understood how programming works. It's not like they're coming in off the street with no experience whatsoever. It's just that they want to learn something new within that sort of domain that they're already familiar with.
Yeah, one of the key ingredients of this new app that we had developed was that by learning through that, you could actually solve real life problems, and we had real life projects included into that. So as opposed to Programming Hub, in Programming Hub, we had excellent completion rates. So we wanted to keep the course bite-sized, precise, wherein you just get the stepping stone and now you can start your own career trajectory the way you want to pivot it. Because what we saw is that the beginner audience was almost 1.2 billion in the world. But for advanced to rather intermediate to advanced, the audience was niche. But these beginners who had this journey coming from Programming Hub, for them, this app now paved the way further. And on top of that, one important thing that we noticed was that this was kind of cannibalization, so to say, because Programming Hub had similar offering and it was again a learning app in the tech space. But then we came across how Coca-Cola was doing their umbrella branding, and they have multiple brands which compete against each other, but yet they all benefit by doing so. So we thought, why not adopt such a similar strategy wherein we are actually competing against our own apps, and eventually we have double the size of the user base that we otherwise have. And the first iteration of the app that came out was called HackerX, and right now it is, I think, the number one ethical hacking learning application on Google Play Store. And within the first year, we gained 1.2 million users on that app. And now we knew that, definitely we have hit the right spot and we know how to go about it. Because when you say ethical hacking, again, people want to learn how to be secure, how to secure your own Wi-Fi, or how to secure your own social media accounts, or that they would be enabled to do by, in the first place, learning how it can be hacked. So we went ahead and actually talked to experts and figured out how we can make a course wherein people will be taught how actual hackers, black hat and white hat, actually they think. How is it that they actually do what they do, and how we can counter those.
Wow.
So it was very interesting, and such stuff on the internet wasn't freely available. So again, we were the source which could enable them to teach themselves cybersecurity. Even in India, you hear a lot of scams that happen. Nowadays, it is rampant. People are losing lakhs and crores of rupees, right? And this was the app that actually taught them how to be safe from all of these things that otherwise can happen.
So we're getting to the end of this like 2018, 2019, 2020 time period. At this point, you guys as founders, you own 100% of your company. I'm assuming, just explain to me, tell me the story of like, how has your life at this point changed? Because I remember at the beginning of the story, you're talking about how you're struggling to pay rent, right? Your families are like, what are you guys doing? Like, okay, we're going to hopefully like trust you with this, but we don't know how it's going to turn out. But at the end of like 2019, for example, how had things changed for you guys as founders?
Right. And during this time, during 2018-19, we had seen a lot of VC-backed companies coming into India. Many of the VCs also approached us in the sense to think that, hey, if you want funding now that you have substantial user base and your product is a perfect market fit, maybe this is when you would want to consider VCs. But then the way we saw it, our team was very lean, and yet we could build incredible software solutions that were actually working for people, right?
How many people did you have on your team?
So back then in our team, we had roughly 12 to 13 people. That's it. So it was that lean, and still we could make incredible applications and products. That
your revenue per employee must have been massive.
Yeah, back then it was, you could say it was comfortably good, and we could hire a lot more. And so it paved out really well, because what we learned from the Accelerator program was how to provide value and monetize. And at the core, we wanted to always keep things ethical and always provide value to the end user. That is why if you see the pricing of our products, it is almost less than half of what the competitors are actually pricing their product at. The main reason being we wanted to go with scale rather than providing a value to a niche. So, and that really paved way for us to build a product for masses rather than a niche audience. And that is why our pricing is also such that if you see the value versus the pricing, it is amazing. Affordability quotient on all of our offerings are next level.
One thing that I think is really cool about Programming Hub is that it's actually like extremely affordable, especially given how much value the app is adding for its customers. So tell me a little bit about that. And also I'm curious, is the pricing dependent upon the location of the user? That's something I'm also interested to know more about, because again, India, right? People are a little bit more price sensitive, whereas perhaps in other countries, like for example, the United States, they might feel more comfortable spending more money. So how do you guys look at that?
Right. So this is an absolutely good question, so to say. Even in India now, if you see, the penetration of smartphones is to a great extent. So even a laborer today in India has a smartphone, and Indian audience as it is huge. So we have 1.2 billion people coming from India who have smartphones with them. So that is a massive audience to target, right? So when we talked about the two approaches of how we can go, either by catering to a niche audience or to a mass audience, we decided to go with the latter. And that being the case, we had to have made it affordable, right? Because now you had internet penetration in India happening by 2018, and now you also had smartphone penetration. Now the next question is, how can you provide value by keeping the cost minimum? So like I said, our team was lean and we are based out of India. So what it could really help us is keep the prices very low, right?
Your overhead is really low.
Overheads were really low. And again, we didn't have targets to meet because we were again not having to give anything away to the investors, right? Because they would have their own expectations, which we didn't have to meet. So these all added in our favor to provide greater value to the user. So what we saw there was the courses in Java or in Python or C, C++, all these courses individually were being taught in these classes who were already charging 10,000 to 20,000 rupees for a 2-month course for each of these technologies. And what it enabled us to do is bundle 150 plus tech courses and offer it for a very affordable price of as low as just $10 or $20 for them. It would just cost them what they would otherwise pay for a meal. So that made it a no-brainer for them to actually go ahead, pay for the app and learn from it. And at the same time, that is the reason why our app also grew organically so much.
But $20 for an American is very different than $20 for an Indian, right? How did you guys go about like figuring out what price people would feel comfortable with?
For that, actually, Google Play Store has price experiments also as part of their offering. So within price experiments, we could actually cater to each country separately with a separate price. And like I said, by then we had analytics in place to see which kind of pricing works best for which region. So we could price each country differently in such a way that it is completely affordable to them, relative to them, and they could actually easily pay for it without having a second thought. So for India, we were able to price it differently as opposed to how we would price it for US. For US, $14 is a no-brainer. For India, maybe $12 for that matter at the same conversion value is a no-brainer. So we could actually pivot and make our offering in such a way that each region is catered to differently.
Okay. The pandemic hits in 2020. How did that affect your business? And were you guys a remote team or you guys were working all out of an office here in Mumbai when that happened?
Right. So when the pandemic hit, initially we were working out of an office. And as soon as that happened, we thought now how to go about this. We were not very sure though. But then there was no option, right? Lockdown happened and we were all at homes. But being an IT company, it was easy for us to work from home and yet deliver results. And at the same time, what we noticed was that schools were shut down, colleges were shut down, all these offline classes that were working got shut down. And now everybody wanted to come to IT because IT is the only industry that was thriving at that time. And everybody wanted to build a career in IT. And that is when we saw tremendous traction automatically happening in the app. And we thought of double downing on it. And we added more courses, we added more offers, and we added more into marketing our apps during that phase. And it grew really well during the pandemic.
What kind of growth did you see?
So in terms of user base and revenue both, we saw at least 5x traction during those 1.5 years of lockdown, because now everybody was at home and they wanted to learn at home and they wanted to build a career, and our app was the go-to place for that.
Wow.
And somehow like our existing strategy of giving the affordable education, so it somehow like combined with the pandemic flood, and again the users wanted good value at low cost, so they were able to get it through this app. And we were able to offer much different kind of offers, discounts during the pandemic.
The amazing thing about you guys, because you're bootstrapped, right? So many ed tech companies came up during the pandemic, but it's like, what happens after the pandemic, right? When everyone goes back to school, right? And all these companies have raised so much capital from investors and they need to keep raising, right? That's how the hamster wheel of venture capital works. You have to raise another round, and then the investors want to have an exit at a certain point too, right? But because the pandemic was, started and then it was over at a certain point and people stopped using these apps as much. Like I'm sure you guys also saw a decline, right? Once people started going back to work, going back to school, right? There was like probably a bit of a slump, but you guys were fine with that because you're not answerable to anybody, right?
Yeah, that's true. And one good thing that happened during the pandemic for us is, again, we got to sit and look at data analytics. And during the pandemic itself, we could realize the things that we need to do that would help us post-pandemic. So that was a pivotal moment for us too, because we realized that our core value proposition is providing value to the end user and keeping it ethical. So there is not just this tech products that we can work on, but rather we could contribute more to the people in terms of physical health, in terms of mental health. And that is when we thought, because the real problem that we saw was all of a sudden, because of pandemic, a lot of gyms and other institutions wherein you could go and work out were now shut down, and people were not getting enough walk, or their daily lifestyle had completely changed. They were at home. So that is when they would search for apps that would help them keep their physical condition good at home. Maybe home workouts and other such offerings were actually peaking at that time. And that is when we thought, why not physical fitness also? And why not mental fitness also? Because a lot of mental breakdowns were also happening because people were at home the entire day. So these verticals came into light during pandemic. And while people were just coming into edtech, we were already big on edtech. And we thought this is the time to actually diversify.
You guys are already massively profitable too, right? So you can just deploy capital into other ventures, the other apps. Basically, you became like an app studio.
That's correct. And that really helped us balance things out post-pandemic, because when we lost traction on edtech, at the same time, we gained more traction on mental well-being and other verticals that we had built by then. And all of them were actually like separate verticals working for a common cause. So now we were impacting lives of people in positive ways than just skill, because now we were helping them have a better lifestyle, we were helping them have a better diet, we were helping them have better mental stage. So for us, the major thing that happened was that we believe in positive karma. And the most important thing for us was that the end user should get benefit out of it. And fast forward to today, and we have 41 million people associated with us in terms of all of our offerings that we have. And we are proud to actually impact their life, even bit slightly, but in a positive way.
And it's not just India and the United States anymore too. I think you guys are working with users and customers in what is it, like 210 countries around the world?
Yeah, that's right. We cater now to a global audience. So that is the beauty of Google Play Store and other app stores, that they tend to bring you a user base without much struggle. And across the globe now, your audience is not just limited to a region, but across the world.
And when you like check the map on the Google Analytics, you can see that the entire world map is covered. Like there is not, initially there were places where apps are not being used. Now like it's even in Greenland, someone is using the app.
You see a little dot in Antarctica.
Yeah.
You're like, how did that happen?
Yeah, we were surprised. Like that space was always white and now it's blue.
You must feel really proud about that, sitting out of Mumbai, and you've been here, right? You haven't opened offices around the world, right? You guys are still here, and you're still a small team of what, like 50 plus approximately?
That's true.
Okay.
Around 50 plus people we have, and still lean, but at the same time, we are thriving and doing really well. So one thing that we got to learn during this journey was that it is not about the amount of people, rather the quality of people that bring about value to real user. And most of all that matters is intent. Whether your intent is to just make money or your intent is to actually provide value to the end user, how much you care about the end user, all of this really matters, because in the long run, that is what will stand, and the other things will collapse like a domino. And now if you see, everybody is talking about profitability, right? For us back in 2013 itself, we were already thinking about rather profitability first and then go the other way, right? So now it's become fancy and everybody is looking at profitability.
I feel like this, I would like to highlight the beauty of being bootstrapped here. Again, like we can do different things. We can try out different things. I think this wouldn't be possible if we had a VC who would like ask us to focus only on one thing. So this opens up, and we can also integrate our learnings from all these products to our main apps, or even again to all of the products, the learnings, different learnings which we have had.
There's something that has just now recently become viral, buzzword. Everybody's talking about it, artificial intelligence, right? And this is massively impacting the edtech space as well. So how are you guys looking at AI? How are you making use of AI? And what does AI for Programming Hub and all of your other apps look like going into the future?
Right. So AI is the next biggest thing. Both of us agree 100% on this. We have been following it closely. We have been in touch with both Google team and all the teams that are building AI in a big way. And what we realize is it is that moment wherein, let's say in 90s when internet was just coming into play, when Amazon started back in 99, this is at that stage for AI, right? So those who can capitalize on AI now are the only ones who are going to eventually thrive and become big in tech. That is for sure. So rather, when we look at it closely, we understand that it is not hyped. It is rather underhyped, because what AI can do is massive. And we have been integrating it in a huge way into our offerings, because our team is again lean. And this is where we can put AI to the fullest.
Have you been hiring people who have expertise in AI, or you're trying to all kind of learn it yourselves?
So that's the beauty of AI, because we don't really need experts in AI. The whole idea of building AI is to make it easy for anybody to learn and adapt and use it. That's the whole point of AI. So us following it right from the beginning has helped us keep an upper edge of what's happening in the market and get early access, because we are in touch with Google team, we are in touch with all the who's who, and that has helped us actually integrate it into our apps in a big way, and also into our daily development that we are doing. So rather than going and hiring a AI expert, for us, it is not building an AI, rather utilizing AI to our advantage.
And how are you utilizing it? How are you deploying it?
Yeah, like that is the key thing to understand, that not everybody needs to build the AI. The like companies like Google, they are building it for us, and we just have to focus on using it the right way. So we like what we did is we integrated AI into our CRM, and like the responses to users, like it took 24 hours initially to reply if to a user. Like now it goes, the reply goes in seconds. In emails and all, the AI is catering like auto replying, where the replies should be instant.
That is correct. And in turn, it has helped us gain very good traction in terms of the response time, right? And it has helped us improve our ratings reviews in a way that, because when there is a grievance or when there is a problem in the app, when they write a mail to us, immediately it is responded. So they see it as a huge plus, and they definitely change their review. And they stick more to the app because a responsive team is what everybody wants, right? And AI has enabled us to do that, even though we are lean.
Even like building the content faster of the courses, then again improving the content. The previous content was like, initially to improve one course, it used to take us like 1 month or so. Now with AI, like it happens within a week or maybe less than that.
That is true, because the experts that we were sourcing in, they had to travel down, they had to sit, discuss, create the content with us, and that used to take a long time for us to even update. But with AI now, a lot of those fillers have come in, wherein we know what to focus on, and experts are called in only to add on top of that. So initial base of content is already ready because of all the offerings that have come up with AI. And not just in terms of content and CRM that we talked about, it also helps us design better. It also helps us create a product, plan it out in such a way that, let's say there is an audience whom you're not aware about. It builds a persona for you. So you are able to now cater to them better. It will suggest ways by which you can rather improve the app. So right from planning to iteration to design to development, even our developers are using AI day in and day out to improve their code, to improve the performance of their code, and also the indentation, the way it is written. All of that is getting improved in a big way, for which otherwise you would have had experienced guys to sit and actually do it for you.
Now, there are a lot of founders who watch our podcasts, and they have teams of people working on engineering, right? Programming. So specifically, which tools are you guys using internally to make all this happen, to deploy AI?
Right. So we have been using Gemini Ultra in a huge way. At the same time, we have been using for development, we have been using Gemini 1.5 Pro from AI Studio. And along with that, there are a few other AI tools that we are using, especially for design. We are using Midjourney. Like all of these together are actually working in our advantage. So the beauty about Ultra is that it understands the context well and gives you answer. At the same time, 1.5 Pro is that the context is 1 million tokens and now 2 million. So it helps you build code in a better way once you upload the entire code base to it. So every AI tool has its own pros and cons, and it is a matter of your choice for what you want to use effectively to be able to actually cater to your business need. For example, for replying to CRM questions, we are using Google Vertex. So directly it is able to answer. So it is just a matter of which basket you want to go into and what you want to choose. Many of them are using ChatGPT, many of them are using Google. So it is all a matter of your choice. So for us, Google Ultra and 1.5 Pro has worked out well, and we have been using that.
You're framing AI in a very positive way, but I'm also kind of thinking like, is Programming Hub even going to be required in 5 to 10 years, right? Are people even going to need to learn how to program? Or is AI going to just completely necessitate learning about programming? Maybe the AI just does it for you and you don't need to know how to do it. What's your take on that? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, for this, we had actually had a huge discussion. And what we feel is that the need of programming itself shouldn't have been there in the first place, right? From what we understand is that machines don't understand human language or dialect. That is the whole reason why programming had to come in play. Rather, if machines could understand us at the very core, then we need not have programming, right? And AI is enabling a way to get there. And rather than being pessimistic about it, we are optimistic. Because when AI actually helps you get rid of programming as a whole, there is a lot more offerings that open up, right? There are a lot of ways by which you can utilize AI now to do other better things rather than just programming itself. So we see a lot of potential in rather now teaching people how to use AI to their fullest extent so as to be better versions of themselves and also to deliver output at a much faster pace.
Maybe instead of Programming Hub, it can be Prompting Hub or something.
Yeah, even prompts for that matter.
Prompt engineering is now like, it's a actual role, right? People are hiring prompt engineers.
Yeah, but to our surprise, even that role is fading away.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the AI is quickly able to now understand your needs. Like initially, we had to prompt it in a very specific way. Now, like it feels like a human. I mean, when we converse with Gemini Ultra, it's like it is understanding us and like what we are trying to convey it. So it helps us in even in our plans better. Like once we have discussions, we share the points, we put the points in Ultra, and we ask it like what are the things we can improve along this way. So, and there is one funny thing I would like to share. It's like initially I remember like the first when we started our courses, introducing courses in the app, the first thing was like we used to tell the user that computers are dumb. That computers are dumb machines and you need to like instruct it to operate. And now like it has completely changed with AI. Now the computers have become intelligent. And we never thought this would happen in such a short time.
Correct. In fundamentals of programming, the first thing that was taught to us also in our school days was that computer is a dumb machine. Only the instructions that you give it, it will be able to follow. But now computers can reason with you. So that's the power of AI. It is as good as a human intelligence, right? So you can actually talk to it, reason with it, and together collaborate and give a better output. So this is the way to go. We feel even if programming goes as a whole, still we would be happy about it because we have 10 other things that we can bring up in that same space, which would enable user even more.
And like you have an all-rounder expert with you. Like in cricket, you say it can do batting, bowling, everything, fielding, everything. So the AI, it has the knowledge of the entire web. So like it is the power is like the how you use it. Like it's a genie. Like what wish you can ask it.
So you guys are optimistic, you would say.
Absolutely optimistic, because the way we see it, if you can utilize its potential, there is no limit of how good you can be, right? Because now you have like 1,000 scientists who is able to help you at your fingertips. Now it is a matter of how you utilize them. Rather than investing, maybe 10 years back, you would have had to invest millions or billions of dollars to get so many experts in one place. And now you have it at your disposal. So if you see it the way we see it, it is immense.
That was Nigel, Crasto, and Tito Idicula, founders of Programming Hub. And by the way, when they're not busy building their business, Nigel and Tito love to kick back and play some video games.
We didn't become gamers later. We were gamers right from the beginning, right? From like, let's say 6-year-old or 7-year-old ourselves, if we look at, we would rather play computers at home rather than go to outside and play. That we did, but in our free time, we were gamers right from the beginning.
PC gamers,
and then eventually console gamers. So Nigel, for example, has right from PS1 to all the collection to PS5, and then PCs also. So we are gamers at heart, and that also brings in a lot of dynamics. From what we see, we need very low response time, right, in order to be a good gamer. So in a way, it has also shaped us, actually shape our business, taking quick decisions.
This sounds like a LinkedIn post.
It does, it absolutely does. Well, then it's true to some extent, right?
How gaming made me a multi-million-dollar founder.
That's crazy. But
What do you guys play?
So,
We like when we are together, like we play FIFA, WWE, those kind of games because we enjoy like. And when we are not playing together, like more adventure games, like maybe Ghost of Tsushima and Returnal, even one-player games which are adventure-like.
correct. God of War is something that we have played
it's
a
an
lot.
amazing game.
It's an amazing game. You connect to the character really well, right? So yeah, a lot of that. And the best part of gaming is that it helps you set a clear stage for your mind, because you are no longer thinking about what you're thinking at work the other times. So once you sit in front of the console, you have a blank mind and you're able to actually take yourself away from all that you were thinking. And then coming back to it really helps with a fresh mind. So that is another LinkedIn post for you.
And also like we feel like kids when we are playing games. It really helps us to relax and feel like a child.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of Millionaire Mondays, and also a big thanks to this podcast sponsor, Google Play. All right, I will catch you in the next one.